Okay, so guys, we're on our session number 4, which is our last session. So here we're going to talk about how to identify a structure. We're going to talk about the structure of the market. So first thing first, we're going to start from H4, like I said, and check what is it that we see from H4. So from my H4, this is what I see. So I'm going to focus most at this point here. So I'm going to go for my current highest point, which is this point here. And then I'm going to go for my current lowest point. And then I'm going to create a trend from my current lowest point to the highest point. I'm going to create the trend again here. So as much as I can see, the only thing that made me to reverse was the resistance. So as much as we know, the market respects resistance as well, hence it moves zone to zone. So here, I'm going to create another trend from this point to this point. So this, I call it the market structure. So as much as you see is that when the market touches at this certain point here, the market will shoot up because it will be experiencing a third touch. So here we have our first touch, and then second touch. On the third touch, we'll be pushing to the top. Generally, we might break this point or create a double bottom, come back and break this certain point. But as much as we're not having break this point, we'll be expecting buying opportunities. Hence, you can see here it's just an impulse correction, impulse. We might create a correction so that we can create an impulse move. So the market is simple. This we can say this was actually our trend inside a trend, which I like calling it the major trend. This is our majors trend, which gives us the whole process and direction. But that one is the major trend for me in order for me to know which direction I will actually take. So after a breakout of a major trend, which is inside the first one, we always experience correction. And after the impulse, we'll be experiencing a correction again and an impulse again there. So this, what I'm trading here is stacks. So even here, you're going to have the same thing that point to the top. Like this. So during the process, what you could have done here is that you're supposed to create trend inside a trend inside the structure. So that you can understand where exactly the market is going. So if you can check here, you could have had something like this. Again, create another mana structure inside the mana trend. So you see, when it breaks here, you enter, close outside, it tests, do a correction and impulse move, breaks out here, you enter again, you could be making a lot of cash. Same applies to when we go to the back and check the market again when we back test trend. So when you have the structure of the market, you just play inside it. When it breaks out, closes outside, this was the candlestick that closed outside. Check, you just entered, short losses, push to the top, just an impulse and correction, you moja. Same applies to this point. Breakout, close outside, come back, retest, push to the top. So this was a rising wedge. So a rising wedge in most cases, it gives an impulse move, a correction, and impulse move to the bottom. So it always becomes okay, let me go back to the chart. It's always like this. Goes to the top. So a rising wedge is also a reversal one. So it does this and then it comes, create it like this, until it's shortened, then become like this. Then the next thing, it pushes to the bottom. So how can you identify that? Depending on which point you add. That's how you're going to identify a rising wedge, falling wedge, I mean. So as much as you can see here, we had an impulse, then we corrected like this. That's when you could have realized that once you like that, then you're going to break to the bottom. Same story, guys. You know, the market moves with trends. This was your major trend at first. I think we're going to take it at this position here. This was just a correction, impulse movement. So the market is built up with correction and impulse movement, nothing more, nothing less. If you can check, this could be you eating inside the trend, eating until to this position. So you're gonna be focusing most on this position because this will be the most position that you're gonna be milking on. So here, just wait for rejection. After rejection, you milk. As much as you can check here, there's 1, 2, 3 touch reverse. So always when the market hits our third touch, it reverses. 1, 2, 3, reverse. So now we're gonna go to US 30. Let's start by German 80. Same story. We're gonna start from a high time frame. This is our H4. We're gonna create our highest point, which is at this point here. You know, this is just our current highest point. So now I'm gonna show you the structure of the market. The point which I know that if we come back, we're not gonna pass this point here. As much as we're at this point, I'm not gonna analyze anything here, but I will backtest the chart for you all. So for me to say I'm not gonna analyze, I don't want you to say this thing's gonna be valid here. This is just a correction. Monday will be pushing to the top because as much as you can see, we break our current highest point, and then now we're about to create new highs. So German 30 can come here and reverse. If you can check Nasdaq and US 30, already done a lot of things that German has to do as well. So if you can check here, we had our major trend at a certain point. So remember I said when you have a major trend, you need to understand that once you break it, will always create correction and impulse. During the process of building up that trend, we will as well create correction and impulse. So it matters as well. So if we're to check here, we could have created our trend inside a trend here. And then breakout, close that side, push to the top. After breaking up, you know, after breaking a trend, you need to have sort of like a correction and impulse. So we had a correction and impulse here. So this is a structure. So when you're determining your entry point, always add up support like this. This was sort of like your head and shoulder here. This is a shoulder, your head, your shoulder, and your head. So you get the point. Then you push to the top. So correction, impulse, head and shoulders build up by correction as well. So here it was sort of like a correction and a retest on the chart. So beautiful one. And then it broke out, pushed to the top. Same story to this point. Correction and impulse. push to the top. So this is what I want you to see now. We're having a diagonal correction. So we're not going to pass this point here. So as much as I would say this thing, we had an impulse movement at the back here. Impulse, correction. We're going to have an impulse move again. This was just an impulse push to the top. So now we're going to talk about Nasdaq. So this is the point whereby I know that if I come back, I won't pass here. I'll come back and retest at the end of the day so that we can create our support and resist check. If you could have got any entry here, or if you watched my videos here on YouTube, you could be milking until this point here. If you only you listen to those videos. So this was our current previous lowest point. And then here we had a major trend. So you can see that the point that the market was building up in its buy, it was just a correction and impulse move. Only us who didn't think. If we were to put our minds here and focus, we could have seen this thing. Same movement as German 30. If you can check here, this was our support here pushing to the top. We had a major trend inside a trend here, the first one. And then we broke, pushed to the top. Broke, and then we broke the major, retested, pushed to the top. We had our correction here. And then we pushed to the top. The only thing that was pushing us, it was correction and impulse. So if I were to go to H1 or M30, you're gonna see a lot of correction and an impulse movement. Here we had a correction. So like I always say, the shape of the market is the only thing that will advise you. This was a correction here as well. So sometimes you need to wait for the market to play out so that you can understand where exactly are you going. Because in most cases, if you force yourself inside a trade, you'll always blow an account. So you just have to let the market give you the major direction of it so that you can understand where exactly the market is going. So if the market were to break this point here, that's when we're going to say we are on our selling mode, because I saw here we had a third touch at this point. 1, 2, 3, third touch, push to the top. Hence, NFP sold to this point, and then the next thing it was pushing to the top. So even going down, guys, go by correction and impulse. We'll be respecting another trend for us to be going to the bottom like this. Here we had a correction and impulse movement, breakout, retest, gone to the bottom. USDT. So this will be our last thing that we're going to analyze for you all. Okay, we're going to remove everything with one. Lowest point. This is our current lowest point, guys. Check. If you could have listened carefully, you could be here with your profit. If you have our YouTube channel, you could be there, because we analyzed this buy from the bottom. This was our current lowest point. We knew that we're going to create new highs. So from this point here, create a trend from this position. Okay, let me go to H4. So guys, on the trend, in most cases, I like to say 2 touches matters. 2 touches that are the only ones that create the trend. Trend is not like support whereby we will see that here at this certain point the market will come back and reverse. No. Trend creates by 2 touches. Then it's a trend. So this was the structure of the market of USDT. 1, 2, 3. The third one, the other one has to create a down bottom in order for it to keep us pushing to the top. So during the process, if you were to check here from this back here, if we were to retest from this back, understand that this was a breakout, this was a retest, boom. But the retest, how you were gonna kill it, it's a correction and impulse as well. Correction and impulse. So most cases you need to be vigilant in order for you to see certain things like this. Because if you don't be vigilant, you might not see them. And it will feel like the strategy are not working. You're the one who's not working, not the strategy. Trend inside a trend. Breakout. It's sold. So same story, guys. Here we had a horizontal correction. So there are a lot of things in the market. If you create, you can come back. You had a down bottom here. 1, 2, created correction, impulse movement. So you could have realized that there's no way you can come back there. So here we had like a double top, then went to the bottom. We had our third touch, I think here. 90% rule. Reversal or rejection. Once it comes back, you enter a buys, push to the top. Check where it at now. So here you can create sort of like a trend from this point here. You know that as much as you keep on touching here, you're going to be pushing with your buys. But once it breaks this trend, you know you're going to be selling. So yeah, this is how it is, guys. This is actually our structure. So now we're going to talk about zones. Then we'll be done with the session. So the zones is not a heavy thing. So I want you guys to understand some zone which I add up during the process when I was analyzing the chart. So we have a zone, a diagonal zone, which is like this. So this zone is like this, guys. If the market goes up, come back again here, which is a second touch, and then goes up again, we create a trend. On the third touch, we expect a 90% rule of a reversal going to the top. Same applies to the top. If we don't have the third touch, we need to give it what? A third touch or a down bottom here on the resistance. So in order for it to break. And then we have another zone, which is diagonally. If the market comes and touch here, give us a proper rejection, it will come back and reverse at the same point. So we're going to remove everything, talk about zones, and we're done with the session. So if you have to check here, the market came touched here on the other side, and then here you'll wait for rejection. Once it touched, reverse, push to the top. There's your zone. So zones, typically, it's something that stops a big movement. In order for it, next time it will create another big movement. So in most cases, if it creates a down bottom, it's not easy for it to get broken. So if you can check here again, so most can say why it broke this one. I'll tell you why, because this wasn't the second one. This was the third one. So always on the third one, it has to break. You see, this was the third one, hence it broke. Check. One touch went up, second touch went up. The other one went up, we ate, but it came back and broke. So the other one, which will come here, whatever day it will be, it will break. So on the third one, it always breaks. The second one is the one that reverses. But then you still have to eat, because in most cases, it doesn't reverse immediately. So if we were to check here, we had our first touch, second touch, third touch, reverse. It reversed. If we were to go to smaller time frame here, obviously it reversed. There's no way it could pass without reversing. So zones, you get them on the higher time frame. This was your zone here, touched, reverse as well. If we're to get a third touch, we're gonna pass, but we didn't get it. Same applies to your tops here. The second touch of this point 1, 2, sold, the other one broke. So always when we break a point, it means we already have a third touch. So these are most people which they don't put to clarity because they'll end up blowing an account. If you can check here, we already had our second touch here. 1, 2, sold, double top. And then at the end of the day, you expect it to reverse in order for, it will reverse, but it will break because of the second touch. But if we didn't have the second touch, here we're gonna sell. So those things, they're applicable in everything. So you need to always have them in mind during the process of yourself trading diagonally and even horizontally. So guys, our session will end here. Questions you'll ask in the